I have a question about vaccine choice and how you want to protect that under the Human Rights Act. I'm wondering how vaccine choice, how you see that as equal to something like race, gender, sexuality, which we protect because those are not about choices.
Well, I guess the way I look at it is that the community that faced the most restrictions on their freedoms in the last year were those who made a choice not to be vaccinated. I don't think I've ever experienced a situation in my lifetime where a person was fired from their job, or not allowed to watch their kids play hockey, or not allowed to go visit a loved one in long-term care or hospital, or not allowed to go get on a plane to either go across the country to see family or even travel across the border. So they have been the most discriminated against group that I've ever witnessed in my lifetime. That's a pretty extreme level of discrimination that we have seen. I don't take away any of the discrimination that I've seen in those other groups that you mentioned, but this has been an extraordinary time in the last year in particular. And I want people to know that I find that unacceptable, that we are not going to create a segregated society on the basis of a medical choice.
This right here, ladies and gentlemen, is the new Premier of Alberta, Danielle Smith. And within just a few hours of being sworn in as the new Premier, she made it very, very clear how she feels about medical tyranny and the discrimination that those of us who are unvaccinated have had to go through over the past couple of years, and leave it up to this snowflake society that is hypnotized by wokeness to take this and make it all about race. And just watch how fast this whole thing spirals completely out of control. Here we have a Twitter account, Jewish Edmonton, whatever that is, with 1,000 Twitter followers, saying, "We're aware of the comments made yesterday by Premier Danielle Smith regarding the unvaccinated being the most discriminated against group that she's witnessed in her lifetime. We've reached out to the Premier's office to express our concerns." Okay, well, first of all, you morons, she wasn't even alive during the Holocaust, and why are you even making this about race anyways? Now, those kinds of statements have led to this. Look at this guy from Ontario trying to recruit Alberta healthcare workers to come to Ontario because of what she said. Look at this guy. "Good morning, Alberta healthcare workers. We think racism is bad and immunization is good. So come join us." We think racism is bad? What the heck does that have to do with anything? Did you see how fast this went from "you can't delegitimize minority groups" to "you're racist. You are an outright racist," because she spoke out about the discrimination that those of us who are unvaccinated have had to deal with. It's just absolutely mind-boggling, guys. And we're going to look at this. Premier of BC has chimed in, saying that what she said is laughable. We're going to take a look at what he had to say. She is not apologizing for her comments on discrimination of unvaccinated people, and I'm very, very thankful for that. You know, the worst thing she could do right now would be to apologize for those very true statements that she made. I mean, when have you ever seen one particular group who have been, not allowed to go to a restaurant, not allowed to go to a sporting event, not allowed to see their loved ones if they're dying, not allowed to hop on an airplane or a train to travel internationally or even domestically, all at the same time? I mean, it is completely unprecedented. We've never seen anything like it. She's absolutely right. So I'm glad she's not, apologizing for the comments that she made. She did, however, want to clarify her comments by releasing this full statement. So we're going to take a look at that today, guys, and much, much more. But before we do, I want to tell you about Subscribestar. And this is where you can sign up for a monthly reoccurring contribution. Now, you may recall just last week I put this out. This was no mistake. PayPal caught red-handed, leading to stock plummeting 6% over $5 billion. And in case you didn't know, PayPal kind of slipped up, and it was revealed that their new terms of service, their new agreement, would say that they can fine anybody who they want for putting out misinformation. They've since backpedaled on that, but everybody knows what's going on there. So they started canceling their PayPal accounts. And great, yes, stick it to them. Unfortunately, I've been seeing my numbers drop like crazy from my monthly recurring subscribers who have been canceling their PayPal account. But as I said, that's great. Stick it to PayPal, but don't stick it to Press for Truth. I'm getting screwed in this, really. So unfortunately, they're not resubscribing elsewhere. So as I said, great. Get rid of your PayPal. Yes, stick it to them. But resubscribe elsewhere. Otherwise, you're kind of screwing over Press for Truth as well. And one of the great areas to do that is here. Subscribestar. You can sign up for $5 a month, $10 a month, $20 a month, with whatever is within your means is greatly appreciated, guys. I'm going to put links in the description below. Please check it out. Again, people are dropping off like flies right now from PayPal, and that's fine. But if it's fine so long as you resubscribe elsewhere. Places like Subscribestar are great because they're not going to censor my content moving forward, guys. So please check the links in the description below. All right, let's start again just with a little bit of a recap on what she said, what the question was, and then we'll jump into it here.
I have a question about vaccine choice and how you want to protect that under the Human Rights Act. I'm wondering how vaccine choice, how you see that as equal to something like race, gender, sexuality, which we protect because those are not about choices.
What? Gender is not about choices? Okay, I'm not so sure about that, but anyways, let's continue.
Well, I guess the way I look at it is that the community that faced the most restrictions on their freedoms in the last year were those who made a choice not to be vaccinated. I don't think I've ever experienced a situation in my lifetime where a person was fired from their job, or not allowed to watch their kids play hockey, or not allowed to go visit a loved one in long-term care or hospital, or not allowed to go get on a plane.
Again, she's not wrong.
Across the country to see
no other group of people have ever been put up to that level of discrimination in the last year or in her 51 years of being on this planet. I mean, can you think of any other group? I mean, what she's saying is totally
travel across the border. So they have been the most discriminated against group that I've ever witnessed in my lifetime. That's a pretty extreme level of discrimination that we have seen. I don't take away any of the discrimination that I've seen in those other groups that you mentioned,
right?
But this has been an extraordinary time.
She even clarified, I'm not taking away here from any of those other groups that you mentioned. I'm simply talking about the discrimination against the unvaccinated here that's been unprecedented. Again, everything she said is spot on, yet the current premier here in British Columbia claims that what she said is just laughable. So let's take a look at what he had to say. Premier John Horgan says, comments this week by new Alberta Premier Danielle Smith referred to the unmatched discrimination against people who did not get vaccinated against COVID-19 84 was laughable. Let's get to it. He says, we collectively, not just British Columbians or Canadians, but the global community, have just gone through an unprecedented time. Nothing like this in over 100 years, going back to the Spanish influenza, he said. So these are critical times. And for the incoming premier to focus on a sliver of the population who chose not to get vaccinated when there are all these other challenges seems short-sighted to me, he says. I just disagree with her. I believe the vast majority of Canadians understood that we had a collective responsibility. They took actions, sometimes against their better judgment, but they did so for the greater good. And this is exactly what she's referring to about the segregation of society into a two-tiered system over medical tyranny. And it's this kind of language. Everybody did it as a collective responsibility, doing it for the greater good, again, is a bunch of nonsense, as we have recently exposed in this video, guys. This whole get vaccinated for others was a lie. The Pfizer vaccine was never tested on preventing transmission. And right now, ladies and gentlemen, in case you didn't know, they're really trying to downplay this whole thing. As you see here, recent claims about Pfizer's COVID-19 84 vaccine trial and impact on transmission are misleading, according to Fact Checker's report. And in this report, they get into what is misleading about it. And it's just absolutely crazy. In a nutshell, they're just saying, Pfizer never said that they never lied. In fact, it's always been known that that's not how the trials work, and that it was never tested on transmission. They didn't lie about that. And okay, that's fine. But what about all the people who then said exactly things like this? Get vaccinated for others. When it was based on absolutely nothing. Based on nothing. No clinical trials, no real-world data, no nothing. All these news pundits, these celebrities, these politicians who are all saying this, and guys like the current premier of BC here is continuing to this day to push this nonsense when it's really all based on nothing. Again, this is the kind of stuff that leads to the two-tier society that she is concerned about. Man, if we could only go back to the days of Bill Vander Zalm. Man, if you haven't seen my exclusive interview, sit-down interview, he invited me to his home, former Premier BC, Bill Vander Zalm, as we discussed COVID 1984 and the push for global communism. Really, really solid interview, and boy, oh boy, how times have changed since this man was the Premier of BC, and now we've gone into, this guy calling what she's saying laughable. It's just ridiculous. Now, as I said, I'm glad she didn't apologize for her statements. That's one of the worst things she could possibly do right now. She did, however, want to clarify herself. So she put out this statement. Yesterday, I made comments regarding the discrimination unvaccinated individuals have suffered through during the past 2 years. My intention was to underline the mistreatment of individuals who chose not to be vaccinated and were punished by not being able to go to work, travel, or in some cases, see loved ones. I want to be clear that I did not intend to trivialize in any way the discrimination faced by minority communities and other persecuted groups, both here in Canada and around the world. And I bet she's just can't even believe she even has to say this, and it's ridiculous that she even has to say this and clarify this, but she is. She's like, all right, look, I wasn't trying to trivialize and, the discrimination faced by these other minorities or persecuted groups around the world, to create any false equivalencies to the terrible historical discrimination and persecution that was suffered by so many minority groups over the last decades and centuries. We need to actively work together as Albertans and Canadians to end all discrimination against all minority communities. Trying to make it clear, guys, I'm not this racist monster that you're making me out to be because I spoke up for the unvaccinated who were being highly discriminated against. She finishes it off here, I would say unfortunately, by saying, I am committed to listening and learning and addressing the issues affecting minority communities. Over the next few days, my office will be reaching out to set up meetings with minority community stakeholders so I can better understand the different concerns of their individual communities. That kind of makes it look like she's out of the loop or something, so it's too bad. It's definitely not an apology. But she's saying, I'm going to make a better effort to understand, minority communities. She didn't even need to go there. This whole thing shouldn't have even gone to the way of, racism, literally calling her a racist. But here we are, guys. That's the current snowflake society that we're living in. Just wanted to bring all of this to your attention today, guys. It should be interesting to see what's going to come from her over the next however long she manages to stay in. Remarkable that she even got in the first place, but we shall see. Guys, I want to remind you to check me out at subscribestar.com/pressfortruth. Again, a great Patreon alternative and PayPal alternative is where you can sign up for a monthly reoccurring contribution. Thank you so much to all the people who have contributed to my efforts in this way over the years. I can't do this work without you. And that's all for today, guys. Once again, I want to thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to click that thumbs up button. Share this video with your friends and family who you think need to see it the most. And stay tuned. We're going to have more video reports coming soon. This is Dan Dicks reporting for Press for Truth. We all want truth. The truth will set you free.